Hey, movers and shakers, how the heck are you? Coming at you in a brand new studio doing these videos. But I thought I would ask you guys, do you have troubles talking to your movers and getting them to actually learn a lesson about not leaving equipment behind, or, leaving tools and stuff behind, or whatever that is? How do you get them in their head? How do you get them to realize that, hey, when you leave tools behind, when you damage a wall, that this costs us money and it's actually a real problem? Well, if you're like me, you've struggled with this situation a lot. And there's been many solutions, like doing heavy-handed and so on and so forth. It just comes across sometimes as a problem. And if you don't know the solutions, and if you don't know the problems, then you can have employment issues, you can have discipline issues, morale issues, and so on and so forth. It's a big mess. So what do? Do you give them verbal warnings? Do you write them up? Do you make them go back and get the items? Do you actually make them pay you back and replace for the replacement? Have them sit out a day, suspend them? What do you do? What is the solution to it? Well, I think I might have some answers. But let's start off, first off, every state has guidelines with employment, right? Every state has certain guidelines that you must follow for an employee, and how to handle an employee, how to discipline an employee, etc. And in many states, it's actually illegal to deduct money from people's pay. You can't take money from their pay to make them replace for something if they lose it. You just can't do it. It's illegal. You got to actually pay them their full pay. And a lot of movers, how they get around this is they say, okay, we're going to pay you $12 an hour, and $3 an hour is going to be an actual bonus. So if they lose something, they retract or deduct that money from their bonus money. Okay, that could be good, and that's good. But what happens when you deduct? When you start actually making your movers pay for damage or lost items, etc., you're actually going to start creating a very big morale. And quite honest, you're going to see a very big attrition rate. They're going to quit. They're not going to, it is not a motivation for them, right? So what my friend Paula Fontaine has said, he doesn't penalize with money. He penalizes with time. He makes them go and use their own time to go and correct the things that they have made a mistake. All right. So let that be a solution for you, right? The second thing is you need to get a little bit of perspective here, right? The little bit of perspective. I don't know about you, but I've made a lot of mistakes in my life. I've been down, I've been up, I've been down and up again. So many times it's hard to fathom. So but these experiences, these failures, these mistakes have taught me valuable lessons throughout my years. They have taught me how to go about different things, including doing this video for you, coming up with the wisdom to impart this for you. So my thing is, you do not deny your movers the opportunity to experience consequences for their misdeeds, their mistakes, their problems, etc. That's actually a great learning tool. So you've got to have that perspective. You can't be namby-pamby about it. You can't be wishy-washy, and you can't be a snowflake. You can't be, oh, I don't want to do that because then, oh, I want to be their friend. That doesn't work. You need to establish dominance. You need to let them experience the negative effects of their actions. That has to be done. That is truly, in my opinion, the most loving and thoughtful thing you could do for somebody, is let them experience consequences. Now, that said, you got to make sure that the punishment fits the crime. As I mentioned earlier, my friend Paul Fontaine, he doesn't make them experience consequences based on financial problems, because he knows that jobs like this are a commodity. A 14-hour job, picking something up, putting it down, is a commodity. And then having these highfalutin, high nuanced HR solutions just does not work for a labor person. That is not a motivation for them. Actually, it's a great way to get your guys to quit and move on to another job. These jobs are a dime a dozen. They know it, we know it, and to force somebody to do it is another thing. Also, when we do punishments, we sometimes want to come off heavy-handed. We want to come off like we really want to just force it down their throats. And that becomes more of a sense of revenge. It becomes more of an injustice than a justice. You really want to get justice, cowboy justice, or whatever it is for this wrongdoing. And then what happens is our weird sense of discipline enters in. And that's really not the right way. It becomes an agenda versus an actual procedure to actually increase lessons, to teach them a lesson, to teach them the right outcome. So make sure that whatever you do, and I'm sure it's going to be good, make sure that the punishment fits the crime. Now, here's an actual example that a mover had, that he had two guys, they were on the same cruise, and I guess that they were actually off time. They would be part of a collective, like computer game collective, and apparently someone used somebody's chair, and it became in this whole big disrespect kind of thing, and they blocked each other's phone calls to the point that on the same crew, on the same job, one guy would call the office to call the other guy to tell him what to do, and they would use the office on the meter when they were at the same job. So what my friend did, he actually sat him down, because it's a very childish act. He sat him down, made him sit face to face, and actually confront their issues. One guy got so upset by this punishment that he tried to get up and walk out. And my friend, he said, "You get your ass back here and sit down and do this." And basically what happens is, after a while, they looked at each other, they confronted each other, they talked it out, and became friends again. And I'm sure they're out back playing their video games like they were. So what do you do now? What are the steps that you're going to want to take to do this, right? Well, the simplicity of it is simply as this. One, you need to create some sort of statement that says, hey, it's a responsibility statement. You are responsible for the tools and equipment. And if you do not take the proper steps to protect the equipment and make sure that it's safe, secure, and all accounted for, that you're going to be responsible either going to get the piece of equipment or tool or what have you, or fixing the damage, or you're going to pay for its replacement. Now, I'm going to explain a little bit more about the pay thing, because I know you guys are saying, but Jay, you just said don't use pay as a tool for punishment. And you're right, but there is a time and a place for it, and I'm going to go over that. The second thing you're going to want to do is you need to create a checklist that has actual listing of all the equipment on the truck and the quantities of each of those items. You've got to have that checklist, and you've got to make the driver responsible for before the move and after the move. So, and I'm saying after each move, not the entire day, each move, because some of your crews are going to have multiple jobs each day. So you want them to have this checklist where they count the stuff before the move and then after the move. So if they have 3 moves, they're going to have 3 checklists filled out. Do you see what I'm saying on this? Right? You got to make sure that they fill it out. Now, what happens when they lie and start doing fudging, like, oh my goodness, we lost 10 pads at such and such customers? Well, then they would switch the amounts off, wouldn't they? Well, and that's true. That's exactly what they would do. This is why the next thing you do is you have your dispatcher, your GM, whoever's in charge of making sure the trucks are ready to go in the morning and they're all set up for when they come back. Whoever that person is, you also give them a checklist that they have to run, which would also then be looked upon by the driver's checklist. You see where I'm going with this? So there is now an accountability, and that driver or crew leader will now know that, hey, when I get back to the warehouse, there's going to be a guy checking my figures here. And if my figures don't match his figures, I'm done for. I'm going to get in trouble. So they're going to know that there's that accountability. So the first step is make them sign a statement to say, hey, they're responsible for the tools. And if they're not, there's going to be some sort of consequence for it, whether going to get it on their own time or paying for it. Second step is you make a checklist, and you make the drivers do a checklist for each job, not for each day. Third is you make a checklist that the dispatcher would do for each of those days to improve accountability. Okay, and now number 5, if anything is found missing and dispatch finds missing, the person responsible, the crew leader or the driver, now has to go out to that person's place, no matter how far it is. If it's a long distance drive, then on their own time have to go get the piece of material left behind. If they refuse to do it, then fine. This is now where you're going to enact the money penalty in their pay. You're going to reduct from their pay or bonus the amount of the item missing. So if they left a dolly behind, it's a $60 dolly. Then guess what? They're going to get deducted $60 from their next pay period in full. I speak from experience. Do not allow them to deduct after, in so many pay periods. You deduct the full amount completely and utterly. Yes, this is going to make them really pay. So if they refuse to go get it, then it comes out of their pay. This is where you start doing that. And then the ethics gradients go up from there, right? Number 6 on the state thing is you gotta treat your crews as adults until they prove they're not adults. Do you get what I'm saying? So like in my example that I told you about my friend where he had those 2 guys that they fought over a chair. I mean, how ridiculous. That was very childish. He treated them like children because they proved and acted like children. However, if they're going to act like adults, you're going to treat them like adults and treat them with decency and respect. That's why, you want to make sure that this goes into the next step, which is dish out consequences, not revenge or justice. You want to treat them as adults, give them the respect of adults. If they're willing to go out there on their own time and fix the situation, fix the wall, fix the driveway, fix whatever, or go get the piece of equipment that they left behind, then fine, you treat them with a little bit of respect. You give them that decency. You treat them as an adult and allow them to do that. Okay? These are very basic steps to do. Now, let's summarize. Right? I know some of you guys might think, well, some of the proper method is come down heavy-handed, force them to act like men, force them to act like adults, and beat your chest and go on. But, sometimes that is not the way to do it. In fact, from my experience, that is a way to repel people from your job, to stop them to come to employment, to stop them to want to work from you, and to actually stop recruitment. The best thing I have found is a little goes a long ways. A look, a statement, a glance of some sort. These are all effective ethics gradients. These are all effective punishing tools, if you will, that will get them to straighten their behavior out. And sometimes people can be adjusted by a very, very little, and some will need a lot, right? And of those who need a lot, you get rid of them right away. You just dump them. But you start very small with the discipline gradients. You do not want to enforce heavy-handed discipline gradients, ethics gradients, right from the get-go. Give them a chance to correct. Give them a chance to see and learn from their mistakes. You got to give them that opportunity. If you don't give them that opportunity, you're denying them the experience of learning from their mistakes, denying them the opportunity to learn from and receive the consequences of their mistakes. And truthfully, that is one of the greatest ills that we have in our society today. People don't want to experience those those consequences. And I think that's what we need to enforce to get better improvement. And a lot of the big moving companies, this is how they do it. A little goes a long way. So guys, I hope that you've learned something from this. This has been a very simple video. It's a very simple, easy concept, really. But when you really get the full knowledge and you get the full grasp of this concept, you're going to have great returns. And I think this is a game changer for many of you on how to treat your employees. Now, a lot of you are going to probably disagree with me, and that's okay. And feel free to leave me a comment below just telling me how much you disagree with me. I want to hear from you, right? But in the meantime, leave me a like, leave me a comment, subscribe to my channel if you're not subscribed, because believe it or not, most people who watch this video are not subscribed to my channel. I don't know why. If you like my content, subscribe. It's the best thing you could do for me, right? If you want me to do more, this is what I need. All right, guys. As always, I'm Jay Burnham. This is the 7-Figure Moving Academy. Please go to 7figuremovingacademy.co, 7figuremovingacademy.co to learn a lot more information like you're seeing today. And as always, guys, go and do something great today.